Game Week 3 deadline is fast approaching, and I am back with my top transfer tips for all those people that are panicking, that are wanting to make a transfer to try and fix their team in order to maximize the points that you can get in Game Week 3. I have the most transferred in and transferred out players in the defenders, midfielders and forwards all covered for you today, and whether they're good moves, whether they're bad moves, or if I think I've really got no clue and I need to defer to the magical card that is the foreseer of points and non-points. But I also have a free hit draft. For those people that are panicking, just want to dodge this week prior to the transfer market closing, I've got you covered as well with that later in the show. But it's now time to smash the like button, time to leave a comment about what you're doing with your team this week, whether you are making any transfers or if you're just playing it safe this week or still delaying it to later in the game week to make your decisions. And if you haven't already, and about 50% of you haven't, please consider smashing that subscribe button. The 3K is where we are heading to next, and I can't do it without your support. And with that being said, let's go. So the fixture difficulty rating, it is starting to heat up, and look, it is starting to change for a number of teams as well. Like Spurs obviously have to be the team, and I apologise because at the start of the season, I didn't rate them. They finished 17th last year, and I'm slowly starting to come around to the idea that they could actually be a much better team. And maybe their players are good, and all they needed was a half-decent manager to lead them up the table. So I will admit, I think I might have got them wrong. And honestly, after the Bournemouth game, their run of fixtures is the best in the league by a country mile. Nottingham Forest, you need to be aware of them as well, especially this week with that West Ham at home fixture. Man United obviously have the lucky Burnley fixture, but after the Carabao Cup debacle last night against Grimsby, they're either going to stuff that game up or they're going to absolutely batter Burnley. Now, I'm still of the belief that they're going to come out and smash them at least 4-0, because I think that the pressure is already building on Amarin and he needs a statement result. He needs those players to click on Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. because if they don't, he's in a world of pain and it's going to be coming really, really quickly. Lots of people already losing the faith. I'm not one of them, but I think he needs to start playing some players in a few different spots and some players not at all. Like Kanana and Dallo, they should never see the light of the team ever again. Especially if he's going to keep with that system, they're just a hindrance to his system. Obviously, Brentford, they have a nice fixture as well with Sunderland away, so lots of things there. And if you are going for the one-week punts because you just want to get through to the end of this thing before pressing wildcard maybe over the international break, then target the fixtures. And those are the teams you probably want to look at this week in preparation for what you're going to be doing in Game Week 3. So on to the defenders and the most transferred. Now, I've done a few things here to try and make it a little bit easier for you all that are watching. I put a red exclamation mark to people that are definitely out. Like, they will not be playing. Like, Frimpong, as we know, will not be playing. I put yellow exclamation marks next to the ones that potentially could be playing, but we don't know completely that they're not yet, and we need to wait for press conferences. I've also made it a little bit easier in terms of the difficulty of the fixture by actually colour-coding the fixture in the colour that it is, so that way you can see whether it's a good fixture, whether it's a bad fixture straight off the bat. So let's get into it. Timber and Calafiori, I have no idea why people are transferring in this game week. Yes, they got 24 points, and Jurriën Timber got 2 goals and an assist, and Calafiori in his 2 weeks has had a goal and an assist. But they are going to Liverpool, and Liverpool are going to score goals. Yes, they might be a little bit suspect defensively themselves, but these are not good buys this week. In fact, they're not good buys for quite a few weeks, probably until game week 7. I don't like Arsenal's chances of keeping clean sheets over the next 4 weeks. So for that reason, I don't understand why people are bringing them in. Kukurea, though, I can understand. A clean sheet, along with Chalobah, a clean sheet and an attacking return over the first 2 game weeks. They are in a nice fixture run, as we just saw before. And it's only a Liverpool that they play right at the end that should give them really cause for concern defensively. They do have the early kickoff, though, which kind of puts me off them this week as well. But I kind of get it, right? They're good assets. Chelsea generally have pretty good underlying defensive numbers, and these two are pretty much nailed on to play every single week. Then we got the Tottenham assets. Now, as I said before, I apologise. I'm surprised that Pedro Porro and Van de Ven are the 2 most popular ones in. Now, the one that I like the most of the 3 that I'm interested in is actually Romero at 5 million, who's slap bang in the middle of these 2 assets in terms of price points. I think he's better because I think he's more nailed on to get the DC contribution points. Plus, he also has some goal threat off the corners and set pieces that go into that box. Now, Pedro Porro, in theory, should have the most attacking potential output, but when he's playing in a flat back four, as we've seen, he hasn't been getting anywhere near forward as much. So I'm just not sure. I think he might be overpriced, and it might actually be better to drop down to Romero. That's my gut feeling about the Spurs defenders. And I feel like Romero is a lot more robust than Van de Ven as well, which is possibly why he costs 0.5 more. And he obviously has that DC contribution threat as well. And then Livramento. This one makes a lot of sense. They've got two lovely fixtures, Leeds and then a promoted team at home, which is going to be great for Newcastle. I mean, they should be... No, it's not a promoted team. I think it's Wolves. Sorry, it's Wolves in Game Week 4. My bad. My apologies to Wolves fans. You're not a promoted team, but you might be in a couple of years. But Livramento, yeah, he could be really good. He's got a goal. Sorry, not a goal. He's got an assist and a clean sheet over the first 2 game weeks. Now has a nice run of 2 nice fixtures. He's probably the most nailed on in that Newcastle defensive line at the moment, and I think he's great. In terms of the defenders moving out, Frimpong obviously is not available this week. We knew that already moving into this week, and it's not a surprise he's the most sold because he's guaranteed not to be playing. In terms of Aït-Nouri and Guardiola, I'm not sure why they are being transferred out. I think it's best to wait till Pep Guardiola has his press conference. If they're available, they're definitely holds. And we don't know, Aït-Nouri's was a bit of an ankle knock. We know that Guardiola was back in training last week towards the tail end. So that makes me kind of think that he could be available. So if you've got one of those 2 players, I'd just be holding and just waiting until that press conference in terms of those ones. Wan-Bissaka makes a lot of sense. West Ham have looked unbelievably bad defensively, and he's done next to nothing. I understand that move. I have juiced myself in my own team, and if I had an extra transfer, I would be definitely shifting him out for someone else. Ballard, this is a classic example of the casual player buying someone because he got a massive haul and points chasing last week. Now he's one of the most sold players this week. I said last week I didn't like the move, and I'll say it again. I don't understand why anyone went there. Just because you have one good week is not a reason to buy a player. There needs to be some thought process behind it. Gabriel and Virgil makes sense that people are selling them. Why have them when you can have Cucurella with a significantly better fixture? In terms of Gabriel, the fixtures are no good until game week 7. Virgil, they've actually got good fixtures from next week. So if you're selling after holding him the first 2 weeks, I'm not sure why you're selling him this week, but that's neither here nor there. Maybe it's helping you get some money for other things. So on to the midfielders. And look, Semenyo is the leader again this week with his back-to-back returns. So he's obviously got 2 goals the first week and assist last week. The Villa fixture is incorrect. It's actually Bournemouth away. I've stuffed that one up, so I do apologise for that. That should be Bournemouth away. No, oh my God, he plays for Bournemouth. It's Tottenham away. It's really thrown me off that error there. He's got Tottenham away, and Tottenham have looked pretty good defensively. So I'm surprised that lots of people are going there, but I'm not surprised that people are going for Johnson and Kudus. And I look at and compare their stats later in this video, so keep your eye out for that. I think they're both really good options, and I have looked at them myself. But I've gone with a 1-week punt this week because I just think that I just want to play a certain way just to try and get my season up and running because obviously I haven't had the best start to the season. So Johnson and Kudus, I really like them. I think they're great, and I'll probably own one of them come game week 4 post the international break. I think they're great assets. You can't go wrong. I obviously own Cody Gakpo, and I'm so glad that on the deadline stream in game week 1 that the card chose him over Wirtz because as you can see, Wirtz isn't the most transferred out, and the difference in call based on that one decision alone is huge. Gakpo's now risen 0.1 in price. Wirtz has now dropped 0.1 in price. Gakpo has 17 points. Wirtz has 4. Like, it couldn't be any different if you'd tried. It's almost like the Jota versus Diaz situation at the beginning of last season where Diaz just went on an absolute tear. It was like, this might be the same thing this season. Getting that call wrong, it could be the difference of like 50 points over 5 weeks. I'm not sure if it's going to be that big, but it is looking significant at the moment. Cunha is one of my transferred in players this week of the 3, and I just think he's great. I know that I watched the Carabao Cup overnight, right? And I actually thought that was Cunha's worst game for United. I thought he was great against Fulham. I thought he was great against Arsenal. But I think because he missed that penalty that would have won him the game, I reckon he's going to have a fire in his belly come Saturday lunchtime, and we will see a Cunha that is determined to open his Old Trafford account and his Manchester United account. So I still think he's a great transfer in. That is my reasoning behind that. Reindeers, obviously, lots of people still coming to that party. He blanked after having a big haul in game week 1. Phil Foden's now back. He came off the bench in the last game week. So there's a lot of options there for City. So again, you are running the risk of Pep Roulette. If it's your 8 for attacker, by all means, great move. If it's not your 8 for attacker, I'd start to be getting concerned already. Jack Grealish, I always said that he was the better pick over Ndiaye, so I'm glad to see that Jack Grealish is actually getting more love. He looked unbelievably good in that fixture on the weekend when they beat Brighton 2-0. That was the Jack Grealish of Aston Villa, and for that reason, I really like him as a shout. Looking into the transferred out players now, the two that are leading the way are Cole Palmer and Saka, and I have sold them both. They were both in my team because I didn't go with Haaland, I didn't go with Salah. I had Saka primarily just to captain him in game week 2, and look, it was on track for a massive haul until he got injured. So that was an easy transfer out. I had to make a move. I can't have 20.5 million of my squad budget not playing. So they've both been moved out. Obviously, if you've got Cole Palmer, I'll be waiting until we hear from Maresca, but I don't see any world where they risk him against Fulham if he's missed a game. So I would expect him also to miss this game. So for that reason, if you were looking for a reason to sell, this is the time. Wirtz, I still think potentially if you have him and he's not a priority transfer out, he's going to continue getting minutes, he's going to continue starting, I would think. They didn't spend that money for nothing, and it's going to come good at some point. But I think he could be one of those players that gets the assist a lot, a bit like a Martin Odegaard. So that's one to monitor and keep an eye on. Fernandes coming in as the 4th most transferred out midfielder did surprise me. I mean, the Burnley at home fixture, if there is a fixture that he's going to return in, it's Burnley at home. All you have to remember last year against Leicester, in both times they played him, home and away, Bruno Fernandes got 17 points in both of those fixtures. And he didn't play in the number 10 position in either of them from my knowledge. I know he might have played in the number 10 position the first time around. The second time around, he didn't. Bruno Fernandes is definitely a hold this week. I would not be selling him. He's still a really good captaincy shout as well. I know Man United were poor against Grimsby. I understand this. They haven't looked overly fabulous. There's no real proof to go on the pudding. But I'm telling you, he's not a good sell this week. He's not a good sell this week. Eze, I kind of understand it. Lots of people realise he's gone to Arsenal. But I don't think I'd be selling him. Because of the fact that he is going to not have to worry about Saka because Saka's out injured for the next 3 to 4 weeks. Eze's 100% starting. I can't see any world where he doesn't and doesn't get good minutes. I'd be shocked if he was on the bench against Liverpool. He's fit. He's been playing. He should just be a matter of he's had a week of training with his new teammates. I don't see any world where he doesn't start. Then obviously we've got Reindeers. Ironically, the 6th most transferred in and the 6th most transferred out. How's that for casual football? Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, like, if you're moving him out, where are you moving him to? Are you upgrading him? Are you downgrading him? I'd just be leaving him there. He's a really good 8 for Tucker. Just leave him on your bench when you need and the fixture looks really good. Then you're playing. If not, then, hey, he's on your bench. You don't have to worry about Pep Roulette and there's someone there to cover your bench. That's the way I'm viewing him in my own team moving forward. And then Marmoush. Lots of people already lost patience. Benched in game week 1. Came off relatively early in game week 2 as well. Not ideal for owners. And potentially, maybe that's a sign that he hasn't quite found his way into Pep's thoughts for the foreseeable future. It might be one of those ones that rotates in and out. He's got just Pep Roulette written all over him. Let's be honest. That's the problem with him. Yeah, I don't mind that move out. So on to the most transferred in for the forwards and transferred out. And look, the forwards, there are normally quite often a lot of double ups in terms of the players moving in and the players moving out because there's less of them and lots of people moving between the same sort of assets. But it is still important to cover it, I think. So Joao Pedro, the most transferred in player off the back of that 15-point haul last week. Fulham at home in the early kickoff does not scream a 15-pointer to me. But hey, I'm happy to sit there and say that potentially it could be. Richarlison makes a lot of sense. That Spurs run of fixtures is really good. The only problem I've got with Richarlison is that potentially he could be benched in game week 4 because he's going to go away for Brazilian duty. We all know that same thing with Joao Pedro. He's also probably going to go away with Brazil. This happens all the time. These players go away on international duty, particularly to South America. They come back late and they're benched in game week 4. So just keep that in mind. Potentially that could happen to both of them. Just a forewarning. Ekitike, this is not the week to buy him. Yes, he's looked amazing against Newcastle and Bournemouth, but Arsenal have the stingiest defence in the league. If there was a week to bring him in, it's probably game week 4 during the international break prior to game week 4. That's the time to bring him in. Chris Wood is the player that I'm actually legitimately shocked that he's not the most transferred in forward this week. He's got the best fixture of the lot. West Ham at home. What more is there to want from that fixture? He looks unbelievably good. Gyökeres obviously comes in at number 5. Again, I don't understand why you're bringing him in against Liverpool. I know Liverpool looked pretty suspect. I wasn't overly impressed with Gyökeres though. He didn't look... I just think Leeds were pretty accommodating to him. That's what I'll put down to that. I want to see a bit more of him before I even think about moving him into my own team. Haaland comes in at number 6. I bought him in. I bought the cyborg in. I just think that that Brighton team does not fill me with any confidence. I've watched them the first 2 game weeks and they've looked poor defensively. I can see that kind of game will suit Erling Haaland to the T. Šeško, I understand. It's a Man United forward. He's highly likely, you would think, to start against Burnley. I mean, hopefully he does because he probably needs to. He didn't look overly match fit, I would say, against Grimsby. But then again, a lot of players let themselves down in that game. But I don't mind that as a punt. In terms of the transfers out, Watkins and Bowen, I toyed with which one I wanted to move out for Erling Haaland. The reason why I moved Bowen out instead of Watkins is because I didn't want to lose an extra 0.1 on him. He's now dropped 0.2 million already since the start of the season. Thankfully, I only had to suffer one of those drops, so I moved him before the second one. But I understand if you've moved him out, that makes a lot of sense. I'm very much a big fan of team value and building it early doors so that way you can be a bit more flexible with your moves moving forward. Mark Gui, I mean, who really believed that he was ever going to be a good option? 4.5 million forwards, you get what you bought, and I can see why a lot of people are trying to upgrade him because there's lots of other forwards that are scoring and he's not going to be getting any decent returns at all. Gyökeres, again, I understand this one because of the fact that the fixtures are hard between now and game week 7 and probably lots of people didn't see that much from him against Leeds, so I understand that one as well. Šeško, maybe a lot of people are already realising he's going to be benched. Mason Mount's a problem. I'm not sure what's going on there, but you would expect him to come good, and I don't think this is the week to sell him prior to Burnley. Beto makes sense. Already lost his spot to burying the team. As I predicted in the preseason, that didn't take long. I think he's going to be bench fodder for now on. And Chris Wood, how is he the 7th most transferred out forward this week? I have no idea at all. Whoever sold him this week, I reckon you're in for an absolute world of pain. So game week 3, are these two in particular good moves? So obviously Joao Pedro is off the back of that. He's off 17 points over the first 2 weeks from 1 goal, 2 assists, all that pretty much hauled in game week 2. Chris Wood obviously hauled with those 2 goals in game week 1 is on 15 points. Chris Wood's already risen twice in price. Joao Pedro has risen once. Now, Wood's obviously benefited from the fact he's lower owned, so that's why his price has risen quicker. But if you look at it, this is why I don't understand why Joao Pedro is the most bought forward this week compared to Chris Wood. Joao Pedro's next 4 fixtures: Fulham at home, Brentford away, Man United away, Brighton at home. Compared to Chris Wood's next 4 fixtures: West Ham at home, Arsenal away, Burnley away, Sunderland at home. As I said, I think Chris Wood will also be the victim of being benched in game week 4 because he's travelling back from New Zealand, which is my side of the world. I don't see either of these two starting in game week 4. So if you ignore that and then look at the 3, 5 and 6, it's a no-brainer to go for Chris Wood instead of Joao Pedro. Like, in no way in the world would you ever go for Joao Pedro over Chris Wood based on those fixtures. I just think it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think if you were to punt on one of these for the next 4 weeks in particular, it's Chris the Woody Woodpecker all day long. I'm actually legitimately shocked that people are considering Joao Pedro over Chris Wood at the moment. So this one's an interesting one. And Johnson versus Kudus. A lot of people have sat there and asked this question this week, and I've seen it a lot. So look, the fixtures for Spurs are brilliant. Bournemouth at home, West Ham away, Brighton away, Wolves at home, Leeds away, and Aston Villa at home. The fixtures just look so good, and they've both started the season really well. But let's have a look at the stats a little bit more. So Kudus obviously is going to cost you 0.5 million less. They've both risen 0.1 in price now. Kudus has owned 30.9%. You can find him 30.9% of teams compared to Brendan Johnson, who's 7.4. That alone already makes me want to buy Johnson more than it wants me to buy Kudus because of the fact that he's owned by less, which means that when he does return, he's going to be getting you a lot more points. They've obviously both started twice. Obviously, Johnson scored 2 goals. Kudus has none. Kudus has 2 assists. Johnson has none. They've both obviously been on the pitch for the clean sheets. Then this is where the numbers get interesting. So as you can see there, the XG per 90, it's 0.03 for Kudus, almost non-existent over the first 2 games, whereas Brennan Johnson is 0.52 per 90 minutes. That's over half a goal expected per game, just. Like, that is so good. And remember, goals are just worth so much more to midfielders than assists. So just keep that in mind. Then we have a look at the expected assist per 90. So 0.36 for Kudus, 0.05 for Johnson. And that's pretty similar with what we saw for Johnson last year. He's not someone that really gets involved with the assists. He's more that person that ends up on that cross at the back stick and the near stick or whatever and scores his goals like that. Kudus, though, is definitely looking a lot more creative than he did at West Ham. He's also playing off the right, which is benefiting him as well. So I think for that reason, his assist threat is significantly higher. What you've got to work out, though, is do you prefer the assist threat or the goal threat, and which one is more consistent? I just remember that Brennan Johnson last season, when he was fit and available and he started, he generally scored like a goal a game. That, to me, screams consistency. We have a look at Kudus last year for West Ham. The definition of inconsistent. He had stretches where he was brilliant and then games where he just did absolutely nothing. We look at the DC contributions per 90. Neither of them are getting anywhere near close to 12, which is the magical number for midfielders. 6.92 for Kudus, 5.19 for Johnson. The minutes is where it's a little bit more interesting. So Johnson's only averaging about 78 minutes, whereas Kudus is averaging 84.5 minutes per game. So he's averaging another 6.5 minutes per game, which is non-significant, but it kind of means that he's more nailed in that team than probably what Johnson is. And potentially if Spurs bring in another forward or attacking player, is that going to impact on Johnson's place in the team? That is the biggest quandary. I would suggest that Kudus 100% nailed. Johnson at the moment 100% nailed, but that could change if they make any late moves in the window. But if you had to ask me right now, which one would I pick out of these two? It's Johnson all day long based on the goal threat alone. So on to your questions for this week. And the first one is, should I wildcard or free hit in Game Week 3? Now, it all depends on your team. I considered a free hit and a wildcard for my own team this week because I just haven't been happy with it. Hasn't been performing. I was obviously hit with the Saka and Palmer injury. But I've figured if I wildcarded now, I'd have to worry about the transfer window and all these players potentially could go places. Then I'd factor in whether I want them if they go there or if I want them if they stay at their place or whatever. All these things came into it. And at the end of the day, I couldn't work it out. So for that reason, I've just sat there and taken a -4. I actually think taking a hit this week is perfectly fine, considering that most people's teams have been absolutely rubbish over the first 2 weeks. I don't mind it. And I've done a hit with myself. You'll find that out in the team section tomorrow. Is Semenyo a player I need? The answer is, it's up to you. I'm not going to sit there and tell you it's a good option. I'm not going to sit there and tell you it's a bad option. I wouldn't be buying him into Tottenham away, but I also kind of feel that is the kind of game where Semenyo does actually do pretty well. I'm just not sure. I feel like there's better fixture runs at the moment compared to Bournemouth's. And yes, Bournemouth's is pretty good, but I still think if you haven't got one of those Spurs players, I'd be looking there instead of Semenyo. That's my honest opinion. Next question. Do I move Palmer and Saka as they are flagged? Now, it's up to you. Saka, we know, is guaranteed pretty much to be missing. He's out for 3 to 4 weeks with a hamstring issue. Palmer, I would imagine, is going to miss this week as well. It just depends on what you want to do with the money. Do you want to attack the fixtures this week and just get the points on the board? If that is the case, I don't mind the moves. I've moved him out of my own team, so yeah, I think you can happily move him. Who's the best asset to buy this week? This is a tough one. I personally think it's probably a Nottingham Forest player against that West Ham team. Now, I'm actually going to say Milinkovic. I just feel that he's going to be due a massive haul over the next 4 weeks, and I think potentially this could be it. So for that reason, I'm going to say him. Which Bournemouth defender out of Truffett or Sensei? I don't know how you say his name. One of the two. I think Sensei is the best because at 4.5 million, he's already shown over the first 2 game weeks, he's going to be getting that DC number of 10 per game more often than he doesn't, I think. For that reason, I think he's probably the better pick. He's also got that goal threat from set pieces and corners. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Sensei. I know that Trafford looks really good going forward and probably will get assists. I just think that Sensei is going to deliver more points if you want to hold them like long term. Are Tottenham the real deal with... I don't know. I still don't know about Spurs, but I'll say they're more the real deal than I thought they were prior to Game Week 1. Which assets do you buy? I actually think it'd be nice to own one of their midfielders and one of their defenders. I could even see a world where if you're wildcarding, you could own their goalkeeper as well. Or you could buy Richarlison in. I don't mind any of those moves. Those are the ones I'd probably be looking at myself. Rommero's definitely my pick of the defenders. Do we hold the misfiring Watkins and Bowen? Now, this is a hard one. I obviously lost patience with Bowen. I actually really wanted to keep him. If he hadn't been dropping in price from 7.9 to 7.8, I think I would have kept him this week. And I probably would have played him against my double Nottingham Forest defence as well. But I just couldn't afford that extra team value drop. So for that reason, I've actually moved him out. That's the only reason why I've moved Bowen over Watkins. I think Watkins, realistically, surely they come good. Like Aston Villa can't keep playing like that every week. The fans will be in uproar more often than not. So again, I'd say the same thing about Bowen. So I think it's more than, you can be more than comfortable holding him. Let's be honest. They play 90 minutes pretty much every week. There's no threat to their place in the team. They're both pretty talismanic for their clubs as well. And how important is team value and info? Now, a lot of content creators will tell you that it doesn't matter about team value. It's just a nice bonus, and info and weighting is more important. I disagree. I've always been a little bit maverick with my transfers and normally aggressive. I like building team value, and I will make transfers so I don't sit there and lose team value or miss out on building team value from players I actually want to own. I would rather make the move early, even before like a midweek game that they're playing in, like I did with Cunha, and I was kind of concerned when I saw him playing in the Carabao Cup, but he was fine, than waiting and then being priced out. So for me, I really value team value, and I value information as well, but I'd rather make transfers based on the former. I just think it's very important, particularly early in the season when you're trying to get your squad value up. So onto my free hit draft for Game Week 3, and this is what I've come up with. There's no red fixtures in here, and I'm literally targeting the things, and I've gone a little bit wild with the captaincy here because free hit is what it's about. It's about having a little bit of fun and doing something a little bit extraordinary. Now, FPL Nightmare will be very happy with who I pick for captaincy here. I've gone with Barnes from Newcastle. Now, I think that maybe he went a week early on the Newcastle captaincy shout. This week, if I was a 1 week punting, free hitting type of person, I think I'd just throw the captaincy on him and hope for the best. Leeds definitely looked suspect at the back last week, particularly in that second half against Arsenal. Man City obviously have that Brighton away fixture, and the vice captaincy is on Erling Haaland. And let's just talk through the rest of the team. 9 of the starting 11 players have green fixtures. So Sells and Milinkovic double up on the Nottingham Forest defence against West Ham, who ironically have a horrible record at the City Ground, struggling to score there for a very long time from my knowledge. Collins obviously is Sunderland away, and he could definitely have one of them games where hopefully he gets that DC contribution points, etc., etc. Euro's a guaranteed starter against Burnley on Saturday, and I think he's got a great chance. We've seen his threat from the set piece. He's also got that DC threat. He's also got the clean sheet potential this week with Burnley as well. Then we move into the midfield, and we've got Barnes as the captain. We've got Odango beating out Damsgaard in the midfield there. So I really like what I saw there, and I think he's great. He's going to have a great, hopefully, attacking potential about him versus that Sunderland team. Then we've got the double up with Bruno Fernandes and Cunha with the Man United attack in the midfield. Now, you could go for Brian and Bumo instead of Cunha because obviously he scored, but I just think that Cunha's going to be motivated because he'll know that he kind of cost Man United that Carabao Cup. I would not be surprised that he comes out and puts out a statement performance in this game. I really like him there. I think he'll be unbelievably good this week. At the moment, in my own team, he is my current captain as well, but I will be deferring that decision to the card later in the week. Then up front, we've got Crystal Woody Woodpecker against that West Ham porous defence. Haaland is obviously against Brighton. And Watkins starts here over the likes of Joao Pedro on that. And it's not Brentford away. Don't know what's going on with that one there. There's a couple of things I missed today, so I do apologise for that. It's very unprofessional of me. But Watkins has the Crystal Palace at home fixture. Still the same kind of difficulty, but it is Crystal Palace at home. On the bench, we've got Dubravka in goal. Damsgaard is first sub there. in the midfield. Livramento is unlucky to miss out. I just think that I prefer Joao for the clean sheet potential over Livramento because of the fact it is a Leeds away game. And then Van de Ven rounds out the defence with Bournemouth at home. So yeah, let me know what you think of that free hit draft. Who would you change? And yeah, as I said, it comes in at a squad value of 99.8 to build that draft. So hopefully anyone that is pressing the button would be able to build it. So that brings me to the end of my top transfer tips for game week 3. And look, it is starting to heat up. Lots of people, as I said, are losing patience, but you've got to stick with the faith. You've got to believe the team is going to come good. I believe my team is going to come good. I've changed 20% of it in transfers myself. I've Cole Palmer out, Sucker out, and Jared Bowen out. And I bought in Mateus Cunha. I bought in Ismail Assar, and I've bought in the big cyborg himself, Erling Haaland. I'll see you tomorrow morning for the team selection video. And tomorrow night, I'll be releasing the late mail with some excellent card calls. I have all your favorite bits in there, and get your questions in that you want to ask in that section because I'll put that in as well. And if you have enjoyed that content, you know what you need to do. Smash that like button. And if you haven't already and you're one of those 50% people that haven't done so, please smash the subscribe button. I've been FPL D-Unit. Have a great day.